So since you mentioned Reuters, I just want to remind everyone that a few days after September 11th, 2001, the head of news at Reuters sent around a memorandum to his staff telling them that the word terrorist was not to be used by journalists at Reuters because, after all, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. So maybe we should have given the award to Reuters, but anyway, this is for more recent things. The selection committee of the 2012 Walter Duranty Prize for Journalistic Mendacity, to give it its full title, is delighted to award its commendation and second place prize to Bob Simon for his supremely untruthful report, Christians of the Holy Land, which aired last April on CBS's storied news show, 60 Minutes. Expert practitioners of the art of mendacity from the time of the sophist Callicles have advised their pupils, when telling a lie, make it a big one. This Mr. Simon did with consummate bravado. Not for him the subtle misrepresentation, the quiet fudging of fact, the deft deployment of misleading innuendo. No, no, no. For Bob Simon started with a doozy. Quote, "The one place where Christians are not suffering from violence in the Middle East," he reports, "is the Holy Land." Who knew? Yes, Mr. Simon admits Muslims are persecuting Christians, and Jews too, of course, sort of ex officio, in Egypt, Syria, and elsewhere. But in and around the birthplace of Jesus, Christians are unmolested by Muslims. Nevertheless, Christians are fleeing the Holy Land in droves. This puzzled Mr. Simon. He mobilized the formidable resources of CBS and went on with 60 Minutes to the Holy Land to find out the key to this mystery. Now, we on the committee of the Duranty Prize were surprised at Bob Simon's surprise, or what we might more accurately call his feigned surprise. For surely his in-depth, on-the-ground, walk the streets and interview colorful natives investigation uncovered what is patent to even a cursory examination of the facts about the persecution of Christians by Muslim Palestinians. We think, for example, of the at least 14 homes of Christian Palestinians that were burned to the ground by a Muslim mob in 2005. Why? Because a Christian man had the temerity to date a Muslim woman. What a provocation. We think also of that catalog assembled by local church leaders and reported by the London Telegraph of the nearly 100 incidents of abuse perpetrated, in the words of one commentator, by an Islamic fundamentalist mafia against Palestinian Christians. Comparing the tone and substance of Christians of the Holy Land with the historical reality, the committee instantly understood that in Bob Simon, we had a practitioner of journalistic untruthfulness worthy of comparison with his great precursor, Walter Duranty. The committee was also deeply impressed by the breadth and versatility of Bob Simon's mendacity. For not only did Mr. Simon blithely deny the reality of Arab violence against Christians in the Holy Land, he also skillfully and brazenly laid the blame for Christians fleeing the area at the feet of the Israelis, as if Israel's policy of self-defense precipitated the exodus of Christians from the Holy Land. Mr. Simon also blatantly misrepresented the character of the documents he drew upon for evidence. He suggested, for example, that the so-called Kairos document, a statement issued by a group of left-leaning Palestinian Christians in 2009, was a blueprint for peace, when in fact it is a noxious specimen of anti-Israeli propaganda that also whitewashes the Palestinians' acts of terrorism by calling them legal resistance, a description that other Christian groups have rightly rejected as, quote, repugnant. Bob Simon furthermore followed anti-Israeli Palestinian propaganda in misdescribing the nature of the security barrier that protects Bethlehem. He said that it completely surrounds the city, transforming it into, quote, an open-air prison. But he must know from the evidence of his own eyes that the barrier lies to the north and west of the city only. In the course of his report, Bob Simon interviews and rudely baits Michael Oren, Israel's ambassador to the United States, who told him that the major duress on Christians in the West Bank comes from Muslims. In response, Simon trotted out a Christian Palestinian businessman who denied it, but whose very livelihood, of course, depends on the goodwill of Muslim Palestinians. As one commentator for the Committee for Accuracy for Middle East Reporting in America asked, did Simon really expect to get this prominent businessman with a lot to lose to admit to problems with the Muslim majority in Palestinian society in an on-air conversation? Is this what passes for investigative reporting in 60 Minutes? Now, on a personal note, I would like to register the fond place that 60 Minutes occupies in my own memory. I do not much watch 60 Minutes, or indeed any other news show these days on television, but in years past, my wife and I would often spend Sunday evening with Bill and Pat Buckley, who lived near us in Connecticut. No Sunday evening could proceed without taking in 60 Minutes together before dinner. I found the segments sometimes informative, occasionally tendentious, but no episode that I can recall commanded the breathtaking mendacity displayed by Bob Simon's piece of anti-Israeli propaganda masquerading as concerned journalism. Christians of the Holy Land is a textbook case of employing the trappings and the authority of objective reporting in order to further the ends of ideology. Bob Simon, though unworthy of the canons of responsible journalism intermittently practiced by CBS, is nevertheless a flagrantly successful embodiment of the spirit of mendacity that the Walter Duranty Prize was instituted to commemorate. Congratulations, Bob Simon, on your award. You richly deserve it. We will, of course, be sending this to Mr. Simon.